Joining me now is the co-founder of Diligence LLC, former CIA Operative Mike Baker. I don't even know where you are, but I know you parachuted in or tunneled in.
He can't tell you where he is.
No,
I'm at the compound right now, and it's a secret. It's a secret location, except I got a picture of it behind me.
This is why you have to follow Mike on Twitter, because he's like on a gator boat, like a fan boat coming in. Mike, is this ban a significant step in focusing on national security?
Well, it's become this outsized thing that is chewing up a lot of political capital and a lot of attention, and it really didn't need to. It's important, and it should be done. And the previous administration, the Obama administration, had identified and outlined the same problem, but because of the messaging issues, the discipline coming out of the White House in this current administration, unfortunately, it's taken on this concept that somehow the travel ban is critical for national security. Well, it's an element of national security, and it's a very simple process. You've got these states, these nations that are essentially failed states, and the previous administration agreed. And the idea being is, whoa, let's take a break. Let's review internally our processes for how we do the vetting, how we do the due diligence, the background checking on people who want to come to this country from these particular failed states where there's no infrastructure, there's no ability to reach in and in a logical and efficient manner check databases and talk to people to understand who are these people that want to come in. It's simply that. And then once you do that, fine, improve your systems and the suspension is over. But that's not the way it works. So it's become this thing that, like I said, is just chewing up a tremendous amount of political capital.
At the same time that you have this new developing diplomatic crisis in the Middle East, with Qatar now hiring former Attorney General John Ashcroft in response to accusations that the nation supports terror groups in the region. Saudi Arabia and several other Gulf nations cut diplomatic ties with Qatar last week over the terror allegations. Egyptian billionaire businessman Najib Sawiris backing the decision on Wall Street Week when he talked to Maria on Friday.
Tell us why you are advising your colleagues in business to take their money out of Qatar right now.
Well, I'm not just advising them to take their money out of Qatar. I'm advising them not to deal with Qatar, because we are all watching. Every day we wake up hearing a lunatic or a savage person that goes with the car and kills innocent people, or like in my own country, they stopped a bus with children and women, shot them, and shot the men in front of the eyes of the women. And every day we hear all these incidents, and nobody's doing anything against it. And we need to come to the bottom of that. And the one country that declares openly that it is supporting terror organizations like Hamas or other organizations, that is siding with Iran openly, that all intelligence services of the world have all materials showing that they're supporting all the terrorists and extremist groups in the Middle East, from Libya, in Syria, in Iraq, and everywhere.
Mike, what does this rift in Qatar mean for us? Because, again, this comes on the heels of the Obama-backed and brokered Iranian nuclear deal.
Yeah, and that soundbite there gave away the reason why this has exploded into an issue, and it's Iran. So this is essentially, at the top line, a conflict between the Saudis and Iran. And the Saudis view Iran, obviously, as their Lex Luthor, and they're locked in this battle for influence in the region. So the Saudis have exerted a great deal of pressure on some of these other countries, Egypt included, to isolate Qatar. The truth of the matter is that they're all complicit in different ways over different periods of time in either financing or somehow supporting or looking the other way in terms of Islamic extremism. So Qatar doesn't stand alone in that. And what needs to happen, and what's going to be extremely difficult, is the U.S. in particular, we're going to need to find a way to step into that breach and bring them back together in a fashion, because we're not going to do this. We're not going to beat terrorism by isolating Qatar. We've got a military base there, and different things can be true at the same time in the Middle East. You can be working with a partner out there who, on one hand, out of one side of their mouth, helps you with certain terrorist operations or providing intelligence to us and our liaison partners. At the same time, there can be elements within that government that sympathize or support terrorism or businesses that do the same thing. You got to deal with the world as it exists and not try to find some perfect ending.
Hey, Mike, it's Mitch Rochelle. With all the Sunni-Shia conflict that's going on, doesn't Iran just need trading partners? And maybe they were looking to make a friend in Qatar because there's so many players in the region that just won't trade with them, and they need trading partners.
Well, sure, they'd like as many trading partners as possible, but over the top of that is the fact that Iran's doing it for the regime's best interest, which is to drive a wedge between these countries and to try to the degree possible to pull them out of the Saudi sphere. Again, this is a Saudi-Iranian dispute. I wouldn't ascribe any sort of innocent economic reasoning behind anything that the Iranian regime does. So I think your take on it, while there's an element of economic truth there, the reality is it's more nefarious than that.
Mike, what's the end game for Qatar here? Because they've been very Machiavellian, I would say. They play from both sides. They're friends with everybody. They have Al Jazeera, giving these viewpoints for it. They deal with Iran. They were dealing with the West. We have the big base there. It sounds like finally they're getting called on playing both sides here. How does this end for them? Is it some detente where that continues, or is the line drawn and they have to choose a side or have a side chosen for them?
No, I don't think it's going to be a hardline decision at the end where that's it. There's a final break from sort of this traditional alliance where, to some degree they've been aligned with UAE and Egypt and the others and the Saudis. I think what will happen is, I hope what will happen is that there will be a significant diplomatic effort led by Rex Tillerson and some others. And at the end of the day, we'll heal the rift to some degree. They'll open the borders. There'll be business. But we have to be pragmatic and understand that, again, there'll be this duplicity that exists. And it's not just Qatar. I mean, look at the Saudis and the way over the time they've dealt with the devil. They've turned the other way in terms of allowing the extremism to build in exchange for stability within the kingdom. So, the Middle East is one of those places where, it's unsatisfactory, but you have to deal with who exists there. And you have to understand and be very, very hardline pragmatic about this to understand that they're going to be duplicitous in the way that they act when it comes to extremism.
Mike, when you leave, do you just ignite your jet propulsion pack just while you're sitting in your seat and just fly right out?
Yeah. Yeah, we tend to, everything disappears. It's a little bit like Mr. Wolf. You got to clean the place up, and then you go and, then you find another place where we can do another segment. But it is what it is. Yeah. Look, I'm out in Idaho. I'm going to release that information to the public. I was going to give it to a friend, and they were going to hand it to the press. But I'm in Idaho, and if anybody out there watching hasn't been to Idaho, I'm here to tell you it's one of the greatest states in the nation.
It really is.
Cool.
It is stunningly beautiful. But I would deeply, deeply appreciate your Winston Wolf reference.
Thank you.
Very much. Mike Baker.